The guard shack at Black Hollow construction site was nothing more than a steel box bolted to a concrete pad. 3 grimy windows, a desk that smelled of mold. The chair creaked when Frank leaned back, and the buzzing fluorescent bulb above gave off more noise than light. The lot stretched wide and empty, half-built scaffolding looming like skeletons against the night sky. Beyond the chain-link fence, the forest pressed in, a dark wall of pine and oak. The woods had a weight to them, as though they were leaning forward, listening. Frank sipped lukewarm coffee, tried to focus on his paperback novel, but his eyes kept drifting toward the windows. Every shift for the past week, something had been wrong. The first night, he'd found the raccoon, or what was left of it. The body lay half inside the fence near the parking lot, shredded, not eaten, just torn apart. Its ribs stuck out like broken white fingers, guts strewn across the gravel. The smell was sharp and metallic, coppery blood mixed with wet fur and sour rot. He'd gagged. His supervisor told him it was coyotes. They'll drag anything through the fence if they're hungry enough. Frank knew coyotes. He'd hunted them in his youth. Coyotes didn't do that. The second night, it was the deer. A young doe left sprawled near the floodlight, as if placed there for him to find. The throat was gone, the ribcage split wide. The smell was worse this time, blood gone sickly sweet, crawling with flies even in the cold. The eyes, glassy and wide, locked on him as if pleading. By the third night, Frank was jumpy. Every creak of metal, every snap of a branch made him flinch. His hands shook when he lit a cigarette. The taste turned bitter in his mouth, coated with the phantom tang of iron from that deer. He leaned forward at the desk, book forgotten, straining to hear past the hum of the floodlight and the whine of the bulb. The night pressed close, thick, damp. The woods whispered, and then, faint, just on the edge of hearing, something moved. A heavy crack of branches, slow, deliberate. Frank set the book down, his skin prickled. He knew he was being watched. He didn't need to see eyes to feel it. The forest was breathing, and it was breathing with him. Frank stepped outside to smoke. Rain dripping off the shack roof in steady rivulets. The air was thick with damp earth, gasoline from the generator, and something else. A copper tang that made his tongue taste like he'd bitten it. His flashlight beam cut across the fence. The trees stood like a wall, slick with rain. Then he saw them, 2 orbs, yellow, reflective, not like deer eyes too high off the ground, not like coyotes too far apart. They blinked, and the smell hit him, heavy, putrid. Like a slaughterhouse left to rot. Wet fur, curdled blood, maggoty meat. His stomach rolled. The eyes moved sideways, then forward, slowly, deliberately. Something massive shifted between the trees, snapping branches like twigs. Frank's breath caught in his throat. His cigarette fell into the mud, hissing. He stumbled back, heart slamming against his ribs before bolting for the shack. Frank slammed the door shut, fingers fumbling at the lock. The shack walls felt thinner than paper. He pressed his back against the desk, chest heaving. Silence, just the drone of the light, just the rain. His breath echoed in his ears. He almost convinced himself it was nothing, until the first thud. Something hit the wall, hard. The shack rattled, coffee spilled across the desk, dripping to the floor. Then came the sound, a slow, wet snort. Breathing, the kind of breathing that carried heat. The stench rolled through the cracks, sour meat, wet dog, coppery blood. It coated his tongue, made his throat sting. Frank dropped to the floor, crawling beneath the desk. His palms slick with sweat and grit. The taste of bile burned the back of his mouth. He clamped a trembling hand over his lips to muffle the sound. The doorknob rattled, slowly, testing. Metal clinked against metal. A long claw scraped across the shack's siding. Steel on glass, nails screeching. Circling. Frank pressed himself tighter against the floor, heartbeat pounding so hard he swore the thing could hear it. His skin crawled with every scrape. Then, at the window, a shadow, huge, a snout pressed to the glass, condensation ballooned, nostrils flaring. A low growl vibrated the pane, rattling it in the frame. It sniffed, once, twice, then it stayed, breath fogging the glass inches from Frank's head. Every nerve screamed at him not to move. His knees cramped, his back spasmed, but he stayed still. The smell of rotted flesh seeped into his lungs. His tongue felt coated in pennies. His body shook with the effort of not crying out. The scratching circled the shack for what felt like hours. Sometimes claws, sometimes breath, sometimes the rattle of the handle. As if the Dogman were testing each weakness. Frank prayed the lock would hold. He prayed the glass would hold. He prayed he would hold. At some point, the scratching stopped. Frank waited, body locked in a trembling crouch. He listened to the silence. The only sound was the rain, dripping steady. Slowly, he crawled out from under the desk. His joints screamed with pain, throat raw from holding back bile. He peered over the window ledge. Nothing. The lot lay empty. The forest stood still, holding its secrets. The smell lingered, faint but real. And then, engines. Pickup trucks rattled through the gates, headlights cutting through the fog. Construction workers piled out, stomping boots, laughing, calling to one another. Their voices shattered the silence like sunlight through storm clouds. Frank staggered outside, face pale and drawn. The men waved at him, but he couldn't wave back. He was alive, but the night had changed him. Frank never went back. That afternoon, he called his supervisor and quit. No details, no excuses. Just, find someone else. I'm done. A week later, he was standing in the food court of a mall. Teenagers loitered near the tables, laughing, tossing fries, skateboards clattering against the tile. Annoying, yes, but safe. At least teenagers didn't leave mutilated deer by fences. At least teenagers didn't scratch at your windows in the dark. But the smell stayed with him, the metallic tang of blood, the sour stench of wet fur. Even here, beneath the buzz of neon signs and the reek of fast food, he swore he could smell it sometimes. And in his dreams, the breath on the glass, the shadow outside, the rattling doorknob. The Dogman hadn't just stalked him at Black Hollow, it had followed him into his head. And he knew he would never be free.